and welcome to the show. And coming up this week, we've got
a brand new Enduro bike from Merida.
And we've potentially spotted an all-new model from Commensal as well.
Yeah, and also the Evil Reckoning gets a bit of a lightly salted update.
And Nico Malali has been playing around with his prototypes.
Okay, so getting into the topic this week, we're going to talk about tech that divides, the sort of Marmite stuff, the love, the hate in the mountain bike world, in a positive light. Now, got to this because I finally got round to putting on a lefty Ocho fork on my bike, borrowed one just to have a little ride off, and it seems a lot of people can't stand them, so I thought we'd start right there. Now, I did say on the Dirt Shed couldn't even say that, on a Dirt Shed show with Martin a while back, that I actually thought it was almost verging on pointless tech because it's so advanced for what it is. Like, do you really need it when a regular fork does it? But either way, I love the lefty. I think everything it stands for, I think it's bonkers.
I think it looks great. Yeah, I used one like way ages ago, like maybe seven years ago probably, and it was quite buttery. I liked it.
Yeah, they work well. I mean, they need a lot more looking after, arguably, than a conventional fork, but hey, what do you guys reckon? Is this one a love or a hate? Get involved down there. What's next on the list?
Oh, well, it's got to be mullet, hasn't it?
Oh,
or mixed wheel or whatever you want to call it. 29 up front, 650 up back. And I still get comments on it. It's like anytime anyone notices I'm on a mullet, it's over there in the corner, someone needs to tell me their opinion on it.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
And whether they like it or not.
Do you know what? I still don't like them. I still prefer just even wheels.
You loved it when we did that
I enjoy
video.
riding it. Yeah, and it shouldn't be as superficial as what it looks like, but hey, I'm a superficial person and I can't stand the way that they look. But yeah, undoubtedly, they've definitely got great riding attributes to them.
Yeah, what makes me laugh is that we're still talking about being divisive on things like tubeless. Like that still raises the pulses in our comments here. And as I learned after my video on Sunday, just gone, carbon is apparently still very divisive. So that still divides people.
I mean, I like carbon, I like alloy, I like titanium, I like lots of different materials for making bikes from all for different reasons.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely agree.
What else? High pivot bikes. Here's a good one. There's definitely a bit of love or hate with those at the moment because there's a lot of companies, no doubt, are sort of in on the bandwagon on the latest tech. Is it going to stay? I'm not so sure.
Well, if you watched my video a few weeks ago, you'll know that's been around since 1993, I think. So, yeah, not all that new. Is it really a fad if it's been around for decades?
You could also say, though, in the early 90s when they made it, they kind of made it high pivot, ended up that way, and it's actually pretty terrible. And they've just fixed it now by putting a little wheel up high. Didn't just say that, did I?
More modern, and this divides me still, electric gears.
Yeah.
This is currently dividing people,
so
and it's getting people angry.
On a bit of paper, I've got some on one of my bikes. On a bit of paper, incredible. You put them on, incredible. And after a while, you're like, well, actually, is there much difference between the two? Do you need them? What's different about the mechanical cable? You know, I like both systems. Yeah. Yeah, to be honest, I absolutely love it. It took me ages to get used to it, though, because it's not the same as the feeling of pulling a cable with a shifter, where you can sort of feel when you're going to change gear. But once you've got used to the zap, incredible.
Yeah, and I guess speaking of electric, what about electric bikes altogether?
Absolutely love them.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do.
No, you do.
Yeah, I do. I've got one.
What?
I got one.
Where's mine?
I don't know. Still in the shop.
What's going on? Everyone's got
them.
Neil's on one, you're on one.
I've had mine, to be fair, I've had mine for 2 years, and it's great, and it does spend most of the time, admittedly, with a kid's seat on it.
He's
for dusting.
He's lying.
I'm not.
Oh yeah, the Canyon.
Yeah. See, I'm not lying. Now I'm not lying.
Bike.
Now you remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, commuter bike with this mullet style with 150 mile travel that can take a battering off-road.
Electric gears.
No, they're great, but they're clearly they're for rich people or old people or people who can't be bothered to ride.
3 words to describe Jonesy there.
Or me. Well, I'm not rich. Internal cable routing. This one is king, I think. Looks awesome.
Hate it.
Usually a pain.
I hate it and I love it. Not on looks basis, because I think external routing has some disadvantages too.
Yeah.
I've caught cables. I've accidentally rubbed and frayed some by dropping the bike. So yeah, there's merits to either, I would say, for different reasons.
Yeah. But then there's the noise.
Still divisive.
If you get an internal cable in that's noisy inside your frame, that's literally that's a deal breaker for me.
Yeah.
I'll be like, no, I'm just going to take it back, get my money back. No,
I hate
can't ride that.
Cut it open, just get them out.
Be done with it, or fill it up with expanding foam. I do know someone I do know someone, in fact, he might be watching this and he might work for Specialized in the UK at the moment doing demo bikes, and you may well know this guy, that once filled his frame with expanding foam.
No.
Yeah, and then he couldn't get out the internal cables and was like, oh, so he sold that frame. We just dropped a minute there.
Wow. Not mentioning any names, but is there anything out there that you think is divisive or dividey or
lovey-hatey?
Yeah, lovey-hatey, Marmite, if you know what that is. In terms of tech and bikes and MTB stuff, let us know down in the comments below, and let's kick off the debate.
Yeah, keep it positive as always. Give us all the stuff you love, not just the stuff that you dislove.
Although our viewers are good at that.
Okay, so kicking off news then, we're going to jump in with Merida Bikes. They're actually one of the bigger manufacturers out there. They manufacture bikes for many other companies, including a very big one we're going to be talking about in the quiz. So keep that one under your belt there. Right, so Merida got two new bikes. They've got the 160 and the 140. We're going to be looking at the 160. They're both using the same frame, just spec'd with different shock and linkage configurations accordingly. Now this is it on screen, and it comes in both alloy and carbon configurations. I think there's 5 models. There's 3 carbon and 2 alloy, as far as I know. Pricing starts, looking at the opposite end of the scale here, from 2,750 in euros all the way up to 11,900 for this model, the top of the range spec one. Now these are seriously advanced bikes with loads of great features on them. Okay, so let's have a little look at the suspension platform. So it's essentially a single pivot with a linkage drive and a shock, but you might notice it doesn't have any pivots on the rear triangle. It's got flex stay on the back there, which is typically something you'd only really see on cross-country bikes. We've seen it on Canyon Lux, for example, and there's many others out there that use that to save a bit of weight out the back. Now this one runs 29-inch front and rear. You can also run it in a sort of a mixed wheel configuration with a smaller rear wheel, and by doing so it ups the rear wheel travel. So as standard it's 162mm with a 170 fork, and when you put the mullet style in by flipping the chip on the frame there to maintain your geometry, they actually give you, with the smaller rear wheel, slightly more travel. It has 171mm on the back end, which I think is quite cool. Just sort of giving you a bit more bump absorption back and giving you the clearance you need, whether you're a smaller rider or the way you move on the bike. All good. So it's got shock progression, also changes between sizing on the bike. So it's slightly more linear at the smaller end and slightly more progressive at the bigger end. I think it's 6% on the smallest and 14% on the largest. So that's really good, just insinuating basically the heavier rider needs more progression, which typically we do. And I know you've had problems using all the travel on some of your bikes. So I think if that's the way they're aiming it, I think that's a really good feature of the bike, and I wish more manufacturers would actually take that into consideration. Also, something very cool they're doing is there's no proprietary standards. In fact, that's a word that just bugs the hell out of me in the bike industry.
Standards.
Oh yeah, there's none of them. So you've got BSA threaded bottom bracket on there, regular boost back end on it, UDH hanger, all the usual stuff. Nothing sort of to surprise you on the bike there. It's got a built-in mudguard. There's a short and a long version. The long version literally is a full-length guard on the back. Whether you like them or not, it's a great feature to have one that doesn't involve having to have cable ties and loads of stuff to hold it to the bike. It's built in, and it's also going to protect the shock hardware and the pivots down by the bottom bracket. So that's actually a really good feature as part of the bike there. I really like that. It's got fiddle-like bottle cage on there, a removable tube and tool mounts on there as part of the standard package with the bike. It's also got the old sausage compartment built into the down tube of the carbon option, so you could stuff a bratwurst in there, or a curry, actually maybe not a currywurst.
Massive though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It looks like you could shove a whole baguette
it's
up
huge.
there.
Yeah, maybe a newspaper, whatever you fancy. They actually say to not put a sandwich in there because it's silly. And I kind of agree with them. But,
life is not worth living if you can't put a sandwich in a bike.
I'd go for sausages, maybe pepperoni myself. Anyway, sizing. So got extra small through to extra large. Geometry, head angle 64. Seat angle on the bike is 79 degrees, so bang on point. Chain stays are proportional, so 434 up to 438 between the sizes. And then interestingly, reach first, 415 up to 525. Again, bang on point at the moment. But interestingly, one of the things they're doing with the geometry of the bikes is, firstly, they're keeping the seat tube on the bike very straight, and it's got very long insertion, so you can put in a really long dropper post in there, which I'm going to get to in a minute because I have one on the bike. but also they're keeping a stack quite low on the bikes. So it does mean that a smaller rider can upsize just by choosing the length of bike they want and not suffering by having a high front end, which is quite refreshing. Although I would say at the other end of that, if you're a taller rider like me that likes loads of stem spaces and stuff, you're going to end up with probably a lot more than you think. But either way, it's a really good compromise for getting really good bike fit for all sizes. Now here's the cool thing about the dropper post on it to compensate for all height riders. It's got 230mm drop, and you can adjust it infinitely anywhere between there down to 30mm drop. 230mm drop as standard on there.
That's crazy, isn't it?
That's unreal, yeah. I mean, I think the bike's got so much good stuff going on. And of course, it comes in a 140mm, so 140, 150 type setup as well, with the same exact features, same frame, same everything, just different shock configuration on there.
So that means you can just change shims in the dropper, doesn't it?
Yeah,
That means
you don't even need to take it apart.
Yeah.
I think you take up the collar and there's a configuration of shims to literally drop the height to where you want it.
Yeah, it just sounds super customizable, this bike, to be able to change your stack, change your seat post without buying a whole new dropper and, you know, flipping chips and changing wheels. I think it's brilliant. I think most bikes should be moving this way.
I haven't seen a bike with that many sort of separate standout features for a while. I think that's really impressive. And if you haven't heard of Merida, you've got to bear in mind that Merida are massive global brand, make for many other manufacturers, even including brands as big as Specialized.
Yeah, didn't they make the demo famously?
They did,
That was what they were doing. Yeah, and then over in the world of Commencal, over in the world of Cecile Ravenel, we should say, we've spotted her riding a Commencal. Now, she's been sponsored by Commencal for a while. You should know her from one stage having the most wins at EWS. She's an absolute force to be reckoned with, and only retired recently because she, fractured her spine and got a serious concussion. And she moved to coaching instead. Now, if you follow her, you will have seen her around about the XC World Cup circuit, and that's because she coaches, she's a technique coach for the likes of people like Pauline Ferrand-Prévot, who you should know. She's a pretty awesome rider herself.
She's fairly good, yeah.
Yeah, she's all right, isn't she? And and if you check out this post on her Instagram, we noticed that the bike she's riding there, it looks very similar to the prototype Meta that we saw recently, a couple of months back, on the EWS World Circuit. But obviously, it's a cross-country bike. Now, this has got SIDs on the front. It looks to me like they're probably 120s. They could be 100s. But judging by the fact that they're not a big fan of carbon, I don't think they're going to be doing a lightweight aluminium 100mm bike here. I'm thinking that might be a brand new downcountry bike, a 120 kind of do it all, throw around. And Cecile would be a great tester for that.
Phenomenal.
She's incredible skills on a bike, and that girl loves back wheel.
Yeah, she? I mean, if nothing else, she'd be a tester of all those welds on the back end. There's quite a few welds in there.
That is true. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled on Commencal, because that prototype looks darn nearly finished, I would say, and it's very interesting. I'm excited.
Yeah, I mock the welds and stuff, but Commencal bikes are really good, and I hope they do keep it in alloy as well.
I think they will. Well, no, because Mr. Commencal has always been very vocal about his dislike for carbon, so I don't think we're going to be seeing a carbon race bike from those guys anytime soon. Downcountry makes sense.
Yeah, and speaking of more alloy, more frameworks stuff from Nico Mullally. So as you may not be aware of, Nico Mullally, World Cup downhill racer, he's making his own frames with Frank the Welder. And it's an awesome YouTube series. If you've not seen him, I highly recommend subscribing to his channel. There's just going to be a little detail there you can click on. It's just brilliant stuff. Go way back to the beginning. He's probably the only World Cup downhill racer that's doing this exact sort of program. This sort of thing used to exist with, in fact, funnily enough, people like Max Commencal with the Sun team way back, where the team races would have completely prototype specific bikes for each rider in the team. And Nico is taking his experience of World Cup racing to develop his own stuff. It's just a few shots on screen of Nico. And what you probably noticed about the bike, it's made from aluminium. He's had various different options, and it's really interesting talking about the stuff that he's actually using, because he doesn't have a drivetrain sponsor at the moment or a brake sponsor, so he's kind of free to sort of experiment and use what he wants. So he's trying Magura brakes currently, and he's also using the O-chain system there to experiment with different amounts of float in his drivetrain. So this particular race, I think US Open it might have been, he was using the 4 degrees rather than the regular 9, and he's running less sag in the bike, and it's just mega interesting the detail he goes into to tell you how he's trying to get to find the fastest possible bike for himself. And I think it's totally candid, and I don't think you're going to see this sort of level of detail from someone's experiences himself. I don't think you'll see it again, to be honest. I think it's brilliant. I just want to say big ups. Watch it. It's really good stuff.
It is excellent. And then over in the world of Evil, they've updated their reckoning. So you may remember when it was, they brought out the MB range, which was the more betterer, which they basically updated their geometry. Honestly, I love their marketing, or their lack of, I should say. They're a bit too cool, aren't they? This time they've come out with the LS, which is lightly salted. So it's the same reckoning we all love. The geometry hasn't changed, but there's a few little additions that they've made. So check a few of these images out on screen right now. You can see some limited edition scorched earthy tones.
Very nice colour,
including, the grey is Baja Fog, which I believe is a cocktail from tequila. And then you've got Clay Porter, which I believe is a funny play on dirt and a filmmaker's name. But basically the additions that have come about is that it now has a SRAM UDH derailleur hanger. Nice. They've changed the linkage, so you no longer have to fiddle around with trunnion shock spacers if you're swapping out shocks. And also they're offering free annual bearing replacements on all bikes brought as of 2022.
Nice.
So yeah, not a massive change, but just keeping up the good work and keeping their existing
annoyingly
or new
cool
people happy.
As well.
So cool.
Yeah,
them and the Black Collar Collective doing good stuff.
Nice. Okay, quiz time. 3 quiz questions coming up at you on the screen right now. What else did you expect? First one, Canada had their team racers using that lefty Ocho fork, the one that you can see in this picture here on my bike. They had them out in the wild using them for ages. But how did they avoid the fork being spotted? Anyone know that?
Clever stuff, yes.
Next question. Merida is a manufacturer that makes bikes for other brands as well as their own excellent bikes. Which huge brand beginning with S has their bikes made by Merida?
Pretty sure you said this.
Might have done. And the next one, Nico Mullally has his frames built by the iconic fabricator Frank the Welder. Now, Frank has made frames for many brands out there, but who was the first mountain bike brand that he produced frames for? Give you the questions a bit later. Answers a bit later. Give you the answers a bit later. How's that?
Okay, it's time for comments. And last week we were talking about prototypes galore and whether we thought women's bikes were a thing or whether you thought women's bikes were a thing. So let's dive straight in. We've got Dave Shoredge, I believe, loving the look of that flat link chain. So he was talking about the SRAM axis there, and it looks like the old ETAP frame, chain.
It does. The roadists definitely had something cooler looking, I think, than a regular chain.
I really like it too. And someone else mentioned that it might look like a BMX chain.
Yeah, I seem to remember some sort of half-link chains having quite a flat sort of look to them.
Yeah, so
I think the overall look. But yeah,
I'm into that coming over to us for sure. Marcus Nesbitt says, you've probably seen this, but there's definitely some prototype nuke-proof descents around. Yeah, we have seen that, didn't we?
On the hardline.
Adam Brayton's, a couple of shows ago, we did look at Adam Brayton's custom paint.
You hated his paint job?
Yeah, because it looks like a fishing, I
know, I loved it because of that.
It looks like a fishing Mac. Morton Frankfire, wow, what a powerful name.
Yeah, he's local.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Okay, well, Mr. Frankfire, I love the colours of Juliana's. If they made them in my size, I'd choose them over the Santa Cruz. You asked whether you would go for a Juliana or a Santa Cruz.
And I really like what Juliana are doing, despite the messaging behind it all. I think exactly what Mort says there.
Yeah, and I said cool. I was completely shallow and I would just choose whatever colour I thought was the best.
Nothing wrong with that.
Pete Rettier says, I would imagine the Tallboy would be easier to resell than Juliana. I've heard this argument before because Juliana's women specific. They think, well, there's more guys out there. Surely it would be easier to sell Santa Cruz. Yeah. But if the market's flooded with Santa Cruz and you're a woman looking for a Juliana, I don't know, maybe it would be easier to sell because it's harder to get hold of.
Well, think about this with cars. Would you buy a yellow car? You just wouldn't, would you?
But the person who does want a yellow car...
I know, but it's like one of them.
Off-Roader74 said, if I would spend that kind of money, there would have to be a Santa Cruz logo on the down tube. Well, I mean, that is just communicating brand loyalty there, isn't it? You know,
arguably having Juliana on there is a cooler name than Santa Cruz.
There are some women out there that have brand allegiance to Juliana because of what they do.
I do understand the Santa Cruz thing, though.
Yeah, I get it. So Guy says, I'll take the Juliana in large, even though it doesn't exist, purely based on colour. So yeah, he's just as shallow as I am. Good man. And then there was a few comments speculating, or should I say, deeply concerned about the fact that I'm here on the left of their screen and you're there. And some people wondering, has Anna had a promotion? Has Doddy's been doing great, downgrade? Is Anna now the boss? Was one of the comments. Yeah, I've been promoted above him, actually.
No, I've got an ear infection. I can't hear out that ear. And this is the second week on a trot, and it's been doing my head in, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, apparently it's been doing some other people's heads in as well.
Can we swap that side? I won't be able to hear you.
Soon. We'll swap soon. Just stay there for a minute. Let's get on to top mods, shall we?
Yeah, all right. Okay, now it's time for top mods. Anything you do to your bike to make it better. Maybe you're renovating an old bike, maybe you're making a rat bike, maybe you've just changed and put some new shifters on your bike. Anything counts that you've done to yours, please send yours in. There's a link at the bottom down there to our uploader, so click on that, tell us all about yourself, where you're from, what your bike is, what you've done to it, and more importantly, put some pictures in and we'll get you on the show. This week we've got a real cool one here from Josiah in Austin, Texas. Nice. So, I mean, the bike itself is just cool to start with. All right, it's not a mountain bike at the moment. So it's a Cannondale, it's a 1999 CAD 3 XR 800. He says, hopefully it fits in here. The bike's a product of myself being a fan of GMBN, GCN and Sam Pilgrim. Combines all the best tech with Sam's fool around to find out attitude. Started life as a mostly stock Cannondale cross bike with a set of Paul's components cantilevers. So nice. And since then it's become a connection between my body and soul and the city of Austin. Essentially, basically turned this into a flat bar gravel kind of ride with some seriously trick gear on here.
Cyclocross bike,
yeah,
isn't
I mean,
it? With the, like,
those old canties are so nice.
I've had
that's what it looked like to start with.
Accident on those brakes.
See, and it looks pretty bland there, and it's stepped up to this, which does look pretty rude, a single speed on here. But check it out, we keep going.
There we go. It's got flat bars on it.
Yeah, it's got flat bars on there. So this bike's been through a few different iterations.
I like that.
I think there's loads you can do with it.
It's got like sort of 80s BMX vibes going on here.
Yeah, I mean, it helps with the shot as well.
Yeah.
The urban background there. But 800mm flat bars, Hunt all-season alloy aero wheels wrapped in tubeless Panaracer Gravel King tyres, Wolf Tooth drop stop, 48 tooth chainring. Oh man, 48 tooth chainring. That reminds me of the Daft downhill days.
That with the flat bars, get a single speed on that. You got a track lacrosse bike. You in the US, it should be a track lacrosse bike.
A track lacrosse.
It's a thing. It's a thing. Look it up. You in the USA actually have world championships.
I remember when cycling was a single discipline. In the days of old. But it's sick though, isn't it? It's really cool.
Bars, they're really cool.
I love everything you've done with your bike. It's really cool.
His little bell on the side as well.
Just reinventing your own bike. It's great. Great fun being able to do this. Yeah, so everyone looking at this, take some ideas from it because it's cool. You might have an old bike in the shed that you can do up as a work hack or something like that.
I wonder like how many bands you can put on a bike to make it good. Like just be like, I've got this cyclocross bike, I'm going to put flat bars on it, I'm going to put this on it, and then all of a sudden it's cool because it's got loads of stuff on it that's weird.
I don't know what the answer to that is. I don't know.
How far is too far?
Next one is from Justin, who's got a Canyon Talk, and he bought a bottle cage mounted multi-tool. So that to me looks like the Toe Peak Ninja kit that comes on the bottle cage, but it doesn't always fit on your frame depending on where your bottle bosses are and all that stuff. So it didn't fit on your one. But you've got a lug on the top tube. Yes, that lug, I guess, is for a remote control for your shock. So that's kind of cool. You can mount it there and use that. Downhill track tested, looks the part. Of course, that's just that's a bottle cage boss, but on the top.
Yeah, you know, I've often thought, what can I do with those redundant bolt bosses at the bottom? Yeah. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Pretty tidy. You might be able to get a slightly more flush version, get it a little closer to the top tube, but I suspect you might need a bit of a gap just to use the hood on the thing to undo it.
Yeah, or stuff some more stuff in there.
Yeah. I've got a couple of those lying around for exactly the same reason. They don't fit on particular bikes, so it might be worth looking at. doing a little thing. Not thought of that.
Ideas.
It's a good idea. I like it. And now check this one out.
As
soon as you see it before and after, you're like, whoa, okay. So check this out. From Doddy in Corona, California. New life for an old bike. I purchased the full suspension for $300. It was too big for my son. See where this is going? Yeah. Fabricating, cutting things down. Can you see the difference in the where the top tube is there?
No way.
Yeah, I cut 2.5 inches out of the down tube. I used the section piece as a sleeve inside to add strength and help align the pieces. Added tubes for internal cable routing as well.
Whoa.
The whole process is here. Check this out. Like I say, all of the shots are on your screen now, hopefully. There's loads of them. This is like a full pro job in here. Now, of course, there's different alloys that you can re-weld. You do lose potentially some strength with it. Some heat-treated stuff you can't really do stuff with. In fact, we're going to do a video about this sort of stuff. But this is, I mean, it looks like you know what you're doing this. How cool does that look? You basically shrunk down the bike.
Inspired by a famous certain shoe. I painted it black and red underneath. What shoe is that? Tell us what shoe. What shoe is famous for being red and black?
I don't know what shoe that looks like.
It's a good looking shoe.
I mean, I'm thinking Jordans off the top of my head, but
yeah, maybe.
It doesn't look like a Jordan.
No, new forks as well. But
look at that. That is a bold move.
Yeah.
Doing that. So that reminds me of Ben Reed, the downhill guy. His dad used to cut and shut his giant downhill bikes to change the layout of them, change the geometry. It was giant. Weren't the biggest fan of, but he put them together and he used to rip on them, so they knew what they were doing. So it can be done for sure. But that's awesome as a top mod. And picking that up for $300, shrinking it, custom painting it, and turning it into a miniature bike. What a great idea!
And a nice side project as well.
Absolutely sick. Yeah, awesome stuff. Please do keep sending in your excellent top mods. We love seeing them on the show. Quiz answers then, or questions as I said earlier. So the first one was, Cannondale had their team races using the Lefty Ocho out in the wild, but how did they sort of mask the look? Any ideas?
Well, faked it.
Yeah, they had a 3D printed plastic upper crown, even had a fake rebound and compression dial on there, so any other racers there around wouldn't even be able to see. And here's some shots of one of the team mechanics fitting it to one of the bikes, which I think is just... That's going above and beyond camouflaging.
Because you'd see it a mile off, wouldn't you, otherwise? Yeah,
totally. I think it's great. So that was used successfully in races for, I think, over a season before they even announced that they were going to be releasing it. And no one knew about it, which I think is really cool. Next up, Merida is a huge manufacturer. Who do they manufacture for other than themselves? Specialized. Yeah, Merida is one of the best factories, and Specialized makes some of the best bikes. And the last one, Nico Mullally has frames made by Frank the Welder. Amongst all of the other cool frames that Frank made, who was the first? Anyone know? As far as mountain bike frames go, it was Yeti. So he started doing Yeti frames, and then he also did Spooky, which I'm sure you've probably heard of. We had a Spooky bike in Rewind last week. Sinister, Christini, Sorotta, like there's loads of them. Even Frank the Welder branded bikes. Apparently he's one of the world's best of all time. Awesome stuff.
Awesome. Wow. Thanks for stopping by today. And if you want to join the debate on what divides you, what Marmite tech or brands or features on mountain bikes is out there, then let us know down in the comments below. And we'll see you again next week.
Ta-ra.